Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to the channel. My name is Chad. This is Good Medicine in Bad Places. And this video today is about a question that I saw online from a person that was going to start EMT school. And they had a bunch of questions, obviously, but one of them was, what are some things that you feel that EMT school didn't prepare you for in the real world? And I've come up with about 13 of them, and I wanted to share those with you today, so let's get right into it. All right, so I've been a first responder now I just hit 30 years. I started in police, and about 11 years in, I transitioned over to the fire service. I spent a lot of time in the field, 10 years as a matter of fact, in the field on suppression units and rescue trucks, what most people call ambulances. And then the last 10 years of my career have been on the trauma helicopter, where I work full-time when I'm not a SWAT medic full-time. So I'll explain that real quick. I am one of the tactical paramedics, and we have a rotation basis with the SWAT team where we go and we belong to police for a year at a time, which I'm doing right now. But when I'm not, I'm flying around picking up trauma patients and hoisting people out of the Everglades. That being said, I've been on a lot of calls, and I want to share with you today some of the things that EMT school, and I'm not including paramedics because obviously to be a paramedic, you had to be an EMT, so you did have some experience on these things that I'm going to talk about today, but it's more so for the ones that have never been out there, never been on a truck, never been on any of these calls, to see these things that are just fall short from EMT school in the real world. So let's get started. Number one, and the last one's going to be probably the most surprising. So your EMT certification, that certificate, you can imagine that just as a ticket to the big show. You've done the bare minimum, you've gone to the class, but in no way, shape, or form does that really prepare you for the gravity of the scenes that you're going to roll up on, the amount of drama on a scene, the speed at which things evolve on the scene, and that only comes with experience. You're going to have a lot of questions, and that's normal. You're going to question yourself when you do a BP. Did I hear that right? I can't hear anything. It's really loud. And that's going to be on the guys on your truck, your whatever service that you're with, to mentor you and teach you and get you where you need to be. Number two, and I kind of alluded it to in the first one, is just how fast things go. When you show up on a call, yeah, BSI, scene secure, all that's great, but I mean, the calls are evolving, the amount of information that you're getting from family members, from the scene itself overall, it's a lot. So don't feel overwhelmed at first that, oh my God, I'm not getting this. It's just too much information, vitals, people are talking to me, people are screaming. So all that's gonna come with time. The class can't prepare you for that. Your labs can't prepare you for that. When you walk into a room and you tell the instructor, BSI, scene secure, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna head to toe. That's great, and you're gonna eventually roll into a system when you get on these calls where that's gonna become second nature. But at the beginning, you're gonna feel overwhelmed, and that's absolutely normal. Number three, and this was just one that kind of blew, I came from police, and I never really got to see this on the police side, even though we watched a lot of trainings on hypoglycemia and how they can mimic somebody being under the influence. But until you really see it and you show up on a call and you see just how combative a hypoglycemic patient can be, you never really respect it until you're like, whoa. You walk into a room and the person's jumping around the bed. That's a real eye-opener, because they talk about it in the book. They're going to mention, about hypoglycemia, and people can be combative and altered mental, but it's very profound when you see it, and you learn to, now when you see somebody that's altered mental, okay, I'm going to check for this, because it really brings it to the fold for you. Number 4 is how to talk to patients. The book will never be able to teach you, nor will a lab, because it's just you're playing along with the instructor who's kind of giving you stimulus on the call and giving you vitals and whatnot. But learning to have empathy and talk to people and really listen to what they're saying, talk to the families, and dealing with the families that are always wanting to interject, and you're kind of like juggling all this at the same time, and that's something that the book and the class will never teach you. Number 5 is interpersonal skills. And again, the book, the school, class, whatever, labs are not going to teach you this fundamental life tool, which is not only good for patients, but the people that you work with. Seeing things from people's perspectives, learning rapport, getting rapport with the patients, things of that nature. Interpersonal skills, if you don't have them, you're going to have a long and hard career, both in the station, on the truck, or on scene with patients, and in a house with their families. Number 6 is telling someone that their family member has passed away. When you show up and it's an obvious the person is deceased, but that person really has not come to grips with it, and turning and having to tell the family member that the person is gone so they can start the grieving process and head to some type of closure is really difficult. You never really get used to it. I mean, there are still times where I'll be flying around going to a call and somebody will key up a radio when they've arrived on one of those calls, and you hear the family members screaming in the background, and it almost like takes you back to all those other calls that you've been on, and you're like, I'm glad I'm not on that call and I don't have to be the one seeing the sadness in the family members' faces and having to tell them that their family member is gone. It really sucks. You never really get used to it. I mean, you kind of deal with it, but it's not something, if you have a heart, that you ever really get used to. Number 7 is the kid calls. You're never gonna get used to them. I've been on 30 years now, 20 in the fire service, fire EMS, 10 on the trauma helicopter, and the kid calls are just the absolute worst calls that we deal with. Obviously, I'm a parent. For the guys that are parents, even if you're not a parent, even before I was a parent, they were bad. And then just seeing the parents suffering through the calls, and it's a kid. So those calls, you'll never get them out of your head. I mean, I'll show up to a station to work overtime somewhere, and people will be like, hey, remember this call that we ran? The guy was this, that. And I'm like, I was on that call? And they're like, yeah, you were on that call. Any kid call, I remember them all. They affect you that much. Again, if you have a heart and soul and are a caring person, the kid calls are going to affect you, and you'll never get used to it. All right, number 8 is learning real quick that everybody that you work with is not going to have the level of compassion. It's good coffee. The level of compassion and empathy for people that you do. So I still kind of feel like I'm still very idealistic in the way that calls should be run. Obviously we all want the best for the patient, but you're gonna work with people that don't feel that way. You're gonna work with people that are just there for the paycheck. They're there for the benefits. They're there for all the wrong reasons, and you can't let that affect you. You cannot let that rub off on you. You need to do your thing, do what's best for the patient, be empathetic, be a compassionate human being, and don't let that cancerous attitude of some people change you ever. I mean, just be who you are, care about your patients, and And that's really all you can do. You can't really change the people around you. The only person that you can affect the way you feel and what you think is yourself, and that's the only person you can control. So do that. Come in every day and do the best you can for the patients, and forget about everybody else, and just put the blinders on and don't let people's negativity affect you. All right, number 9, and this is a big one. Even after 10 years in a trauma helicopter, plucking people out of the swamp, on airboats, on boats, seeing really bad crashes and a lot of trauma, shooting, stabbings, etc., and bad car crashes. The stress on a call can really deteriorate your skills. If your skills are not up to par, and you really let your emotions get ahead of you, your skills can deteriorate. So controlling your emotions on a call is paramount. Sometimes I find myself kind of like humming to myself, singing. Like if I start feeling like, I'm freaking out, man. We get something with a cop. We've had a couple with military guys on parachute falls that we've run, and again the kid calls, and you can feel when you're starting to get sucked in. You need to catch that ahead of time, because if you let your emotions get the better of you, your skills can deteriorate. And remember, we're not going to rise to the level of the call. Okay, you're not going to come in like people that don't do mixed martial arts or train fighting at all. You're not going to come in with some Superman punch on the big day of the fight if you've never done it before. No, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall back to the level of your training. So always remember that. And things that you've never done in training, you're not going to do them the day of the big show. So if you think, well, I'm just going to show up and I'm going to remember because I read it once in a book, or I saw it on YouTube, or I heard it on a podcast, and then I've never really tried it, but I'm just going to go and magic, it's going to happen. Think again, because you're going to fall short and you're going to look kind of dumb in front of your crew. You're going to let people down, and you're going to let the patient down. All right, number 10, how going home after like a heinous shift of just, seeing the worst that your territory has to offer, it really can affect you. And sometimes I'll pull into my driveway and I'll just sit there for 30 minutes after a 24-hour shift, because I'm just not ready to just roll back into regular life, and that's normal. And I've talked to a lot of people, and it's one thing you should do is talk to your crews and air things out. And I don't mean like sit down and make it like formal, but one of the most important places in a firehouse is the dining room table, because breakfast, lunch, dinner, if you're there for 24 hours together and you're sharing stuff and you're bringing up stuff about a call, that's a way of kind of setting off that pressure release valve and airing those things out, so you're not bottling all that stuff up. But if you feel like you need to pump the brakes when you get home and you sit in the driveway, and just kind of go through your thoughts and get ready to go roll back into family life. For those of you that have families and kids and stuff, it's normal. A lot of us do it. I do it, and doesn't make you any less of a person. The things that we see out there, most people will never see in their lives. And we see them every day, multiple times a day. So it's normal to just take a tactical pause before you go in and roll back into daddy, husband, whatever life you're coming home to. So 11 kind of dovetails on the last one, is how important it is, like I said, over breakfast, lunch, dinner, in the truck on the way back from a call. Man, dude, that sucked. Bring it up, man. It's not a big deal. Again, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse, but you don't have to gobble that up and push it down. I'm gonna compartmentalize that because I have to be strong. Yeah, you can be strong, but it's a marathon. I just hit 30 years. You want to sustain that 30 years with good mental health. And I don't want to bring up the mental health thing, but it'd be a long career if you are just gobbling that up, and you're not going to make it. You're going to get burnt out. So talking to your crew, do it. Number 12 is is how easily somebody can burn out and grow what's called compassion fatigue, which is where you are just like, you're running 20 calls a day, you're in and out of the truck, and you're going on that call at 3 a.m. for that little old lady that fell, and you're like, you got the terrible attitude of running 20 calls a day. Well, you should never let that affect that poor person that called. That might be the first time that person has ever called 911, and to them that is a bona fide emergency. To you, it's a lift assist. It is I just wanted to get my blood pressure checked, or they come to the station and they knock and they want to get their blood pressure checked. Remember that you should treat each call like it's your first call. I know it's hard. I know that a lot of you out there are going to be like, yeah, but I've been running 25 calls a day. I get it. I've been there. 29 calls in one day was the most I've ever had. And you can't go out there and let the last 5 calls tarnish this call, because, again, like I said, that person is probably the first time in their lives they've ever called 911, and to them it is a true emergency, regardless of what you see and regardless of how you feel and how many other calls you've run. Each patient is his own patient. So check yourself, put your game face on, vent on the way back to the station. You can vent as a crew. I mean, in the truck, on the way there, on the way back, but like in Pulp Fiction.
Come on, let's get in character.
So one of the things that I recently, and I say recently, 2 years ago, took on, and I wish I would have done it sooner, was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that has helped me immensely on really like off-gassing a lot of the stress from work. I come off shift and I go to jiu-jitsu, and after an hour of getting my ass handed to me, when you're going your car and you're trying to get your keys and your hands are shaking, but man, it's like therapy for me. So find your therapy, whatever it is: Pilates, yoga, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, swimming, working out. You have to do physical activity, do the hard things that are going to make you mentally tougher and are going to give you a healthy outlet. All right, and 13, and I think the hardest one, and I still, to this day, after some calls, you're not going to save everybody. And that's just something that EMT school, I don't know if they tell you, I don't remember, it was 20 years ago for me, but you're not going to save everybody. And that's something that it sucks. I mean, some people are just, you're not going to be able to save them. They're too messed up. They're just too sick, and that's a bitter pill of this job. But then you need to think about the ones that you did save, and think about the positive, the positive things that you've done in your day, in your week, in your month, in your career, that'll keep you going forward. But stay positive and ask a lot of questions. No question is dumb. The guys on the truck, the guys in your ambulance at your station, they know that we all started in the same place. We all had the same questions. Hey, am I getting the right BP? I really couldn't hear it. They're gonna teach you little tricks of how to listen to a BP when there's a lot of noise on the side of the road. But stay positive, have a great career, work out. You need to work out. You need to stay moving. And I'll see you on the next one. Subscribe and be safe out there. Stay frosty.